This is Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody. Hot Mike rolls on this Thursday morning. We'll chat some Summit League hoops coming up in about a half hour. Bison, again, we got a huge win last night over South Dakota State. Race for the Summit League men's title gets even crunched up as we have just 3 games left in the regular season. Here's a crazy thing for you. Just a couple weeks from now, we're getting into the postseason for all basketball. Class A is shaping up. We could have another showdown like we did last year at the Fargo Dome between Kindred and Devil's Lake. And they play on Saturday. What a way to end the regular season for those two squads. It's great to have Brad Woehl back with us, Kindred boys basketball head coach, as the Vikings are rolling along again. Just one loss on the season, getting ready for unbeaten Devil's Lake. It's great to see you. We're into that time. It's late February. Is this when the fun really starts now?
Well, I believe so. We really like playing well at the end of the season. We love tournament time. Everybody's excited. So hopefully we can play well in March here.
I got to give you grief here. You mentioned me off the air. You said 9 games in 16 days. Who's doing your scheduling?
Well, you can blame that on Mr. Ambrosius. I'm not taking credit for that.
But
no, it was a little bit of a combination of both. You know, we had a Devil's Lake shootout that we really wanted to go to where we canceled because of weather, and we had some makeup games. So that's why there were actually 2 additional games when we picked up Beulah on a Friday night and then Fargo North, both good tests.
And now this one, describe purposely putting this one at this time of the year. Was there a method to the madness on this one?
Well, I think we always wanted to match up during the regular season. I don't think last year it really worked out. I think both teams are really looking forward to the matchup. Both got a lot of good athletes out on the floor. So kind of see where we're at and what type of things we need to clean up in the next couple weeks.
Tell me about this year's team, Brad. They have the kind of year you had last season. That's tough to get over, to make it there and lose. How did you feel this team handled that so far this year?
Well, this group is very experienced now. A lot of these kids have been playing for 3 years. They're a resilient group. Even kind of going back to the Moorhead game where we didn't feel we played that well, played on Saturday afternoon at North, and they, bounced back well and got a big victory against Fargo North.
This group that you have, you mentioned the amount of experience. How much did you lean on that to start the year to say, what happened last year is there, that we're turning over, but we want to learn from that experience from last season?
We always talk about a loss and how much you can learn from a loss. And that's what we did against Moorhead. We talked briefly in the locker room before the North game and talked about things that we need to clean up when we're playing high-level competition, and I thought our kids responded. Going back to last year's state championship game, we don't really talk about it too much, but I think it's in the back of the minds of the kids. But we got off to a good start this year again, so that always helps as well.
Okay, 4 o'clock on Saturday, Devil's Lake at Kindred. Are you telling people to get there like noon to get in? Because there's only going to be a certain amount of people that can get into this game.
Well, I've been getting a bunch of texts, phone calls, and I said, yeah, probably 1:30, 2 o'clock would probably be a good time to get to the game if you want to find a seat. So we're going to hopefully have the stage open for seating.
Nice.
We are expecting a big crowd, and it should be a fun game.
That's fantastic. Those kind of environments, that's what you live to do, right? I mean, you have some games that and granted, you guys always have a great environment, but these are the kind of ones even for you got to probably get a little more juiced up for, right?
Well, I think exactly. And like you said, we have real good support in our community. It seems like our side of the stands are always packed, but I expect a lot more fans come Saturday for number 1 versus number 2.
Have you paid attention to them? I know you're worried about yourself, but have you kept an eye on what Devil's Lake has done?
Well, I think you always do a little bit. When you watch film, you see them on film against other teams that you have played or did play already. So you always look up or look at tendencies and things that they like to do and things that they're doing well, and hopefully be able to take away some of those things that they do well.
How different of a team are they from last year?
Well, they bring a lot of experience back as well, and they bring their six-man back, who was a point guard for him off the bench, the Palmer kid,
Yeah.
and then you tie him in with the big guys. They're going to be a handful for sure, and that point guard is a really good player.
You got a mix of guys that are going to be playing either Division One football or basketball at a higher level. Presley Peraza's announced he's going to go play at Minot State. You got some fond memories of the Minot State Dome, and his older brother was pretty good for you in that year. You guys won it. Tell me about what his game, how it translates to the next level, and he can be a factor in the NSIC.
I think one of the things that he's really improved on is his outside shooting. He's a relentless worker. The other night, we cut practice a little bit short, and he set up the shooting machine and kept shooting for the next half hour,
Mm.
45 minutes with his dad. So he's really put a lot of time into his game. And I'm really happy for him that he's going to take his career to Minot State. I really believe it's going to be a good fit for him.
We had Luke Starcevic on a couple weeks ago, Brad, after the first few football offers are starting to come through. He's just a sophomore. You just had a stud when Riley Sunram played with you a couple years ago. Are there comparisons here to the kind of athlete that Riley was to what you're seeing with Luke?
I think there's a lot of similarities. Big kid, both got pretty good feet around the basket, good rebounders. I think Riley shot the ball a little bit better, or quite a bit better from the perimeter than Luke. But he's a real big body in there, and he's really, really played well for us, and has been probably the key for our team this year.
Brooks Baco is a great athlete. We've seen him dominate on the football field and on the basketball court. How does one help the other in your mind? Because I know you still officiate football as well, where you see a guy that can be really good on the gridiron. How does that translate over to the basketball court?
Well, I like the fact that they play football because it's a physical game. And the game of basketball nowadays seems like it's getting more and more physical all the time. So it's not as much of an adjustment, in my opinion, as a player if you do both sports. And I think that has really helped his game. He's also a lot stronger this year. He's lifted a lot of weights, and that is a real key for him as well.
I got to ask, since I know I last talked to you, we're in the first year of the three classes. Now we're in almost the end of year two. Give me your feedback on how this transition has gone of the teams you're playing. Is it a more competitive class for you than what you did have in Class B?
I think I've said this before. I love the three class.
Mm.
I think it's really competitive. Obviously the drawback to it, you're going to have extended travel. If you want to get good competition, you got to go out west, that sort of thing. But we've actually been doing that for a number of years.
Yeah.
We played Shiloh. So we want to put together the best possible schedule for our kids that we possibly can.
How has that gone over in terms, even fan reaction on that? Because I know when we were talking about this like 2 years ago when this was all in the works on that. As people come around with it, especially last year, there was a ton of blue at the Fargo Dome. I imagine if you guys make it to Bismarck, you will travel quite well again, no matter who you're playing.
Yeah, our Kindred faithful is very strong supporting of our program. We're very thankful for that, and I would see I would guess we're not going to see anything different if we do make it to Bismarck. A lot of blue there.
How about for now, as we're in the stretch run here, describe for you coaching wise, like, is the hay in the barn with this team? Like, and what I'm saying is, like, how much actual coaching do you need to do at this time of the year?
I think throughout the course of the year, you're doing a lot of coaching. I just mentioned the other day that it's a player-led team about three-quarters of the way through the season. I've always kind of been like that. I think I've kind of let kids play a little bit more and not as much structure just because of our athleticism and the way they like to get out and go on in transition. So I think I've been a little bit more hands off this year just because of the veteran group that we are.
I have to ask, you mentioned the game getting more physical. How's the level of skill in North Dakota in your mind? Where have we seen the biggest jump, in your opinion, over the last handful of years?
Well, I think athleticism is kind of off the charts as you look at social media. I mean, there's kids in North Dakota that are getting recruited by all over the country. I think you have to say that basketball is kind of on the rise in North Dakota. Look at Mason Claybo.
Yeah.
He's moving on to a pretty high level, uh, as are other players as well. So I think skill level, talent level, I think we're right on pace, if not way better than where we were a few years ago.
I can remember vividly you guys, you still officiating football. What's the fastest you've ever run for a kickoff? Is you get that timed?
I don't think you want to know. I
What?
don't have the wheels that I used to. Plus, I've gained about 50 pounds.
But still, but doing that, tell me about, is that a connection to the game? Why? Because I'm branching way off topic here, but the level of officiating now, it's hard to get people to go and do it. Why is that the case in your mind?
Well, it's getting harder and harder to do. It's a commitment.
Yeah.
I think the reason I still do it is I love the game and I love the crew that I work with. We get along so well. We got great rapport on the field. We take it serious. We work hard at it. We want to do the best job we possibly can every Friday night. And that's why we continue to do it.
It's tough to be out there nowadays, though, right? I mean, when you're hearing from the stands, it can't be like, why am I doing this? I could be home with my family right now.
Yeah, I think that's why a lot of people are
Not
getting
doing it.
into officiating, just because of fans and the backlash they get. But it's part of the job. Okay, you can take it for what it's worth on the field. You got to focus on the next play, kind of like I tell my players. You make a mistake, let's focus on the next play, next possession. Let's not make that same mistake twice.
It's great to see you, bud. Thanks so much for doing this. I know a lot of people will be keeping an eye on that game on Saturday. Maybe start parking now to get into Kindred for the game on Saturday. Appreciate the time, bud. We'll catch up down the road, okay?
Thanks, Dom. Take care.
Good to see you. There he goes. Brad Woehl, head coach of the Kindred Vikings. They will host Devils Lake coming up on Saturday at 4 o'clock. That is 1 versus 2 in Class A basketball. Of course, remember they played for the Class A championship at the Fargo Dome last March. Devils Lake got the Vikings in that one. Devils Lake is unbeaten on the year at a perfect 18-0. Kindred is 17-1. They lost just one game. That was to Moorhead. As mentioned last week, that Spuds team is ranked in Minnesota 4A basketball. So that'll be, put it on the bucket list of all the other things we got going on this weekend of things to check out. That one will be awfully fun coming up Saturday afternoon in Kindred. We'll break. We'll catch up on a few emails and chat a little bit more on what we saw last night down in Brookings. Back on Hot Mic on this Thursday morning right after this.